Okay everyone, so today we're going to be doing a design challenge using Scratch called Don't Let the Balloon Pop. This will be similar to the Pong challenge we've already completed, but it will use two paddles, so it's a two-player game and a little more interactive. The goal of the challenge is to have students learn how to code an interactive game utilizing Scratch, as well as to better identify X and Y coordinates on a graph, and learn how to use the if-then feature on Scratch. Here are the Common Core standards and lesson plan for the design challenge. Now, I'd like to show you how the design challenge will look when completed. Here is the code for the ball, and here is the code for the paddle. When you select the Start button, you will be able to move the paddle on the right with the up and down arrows, and the paddle on the left with the W and S arrow keys. And the goal is to keep the ball from touching the sides. If it touches either side, it's game over. Now, let's get into designing it. Head over to Scratch and log in. Once you have logged in, go to the top left and click Create. Once you have created your design challenge, you can rename it, and I'm going to name it Don't Let the Balloon Pop. After you've named your design, delete the sprite already in place and go to the bottom right and choose a sprite. The sprite we'll be using is the ball, but if you can't find it, you can search on the top left and search ball. Then we need to find our two paddles, so go to the choose a sprite and search for paddle. Once you have done that, you can right-click the paddle and duplicate. After we've duplicated the paddle, choose the backdrop at the bottom right, and you can choose any backdrop you want, but I'll be using the grid backdrop. Once you've selected the grid backdrop, select the right side and click Customize Backdrops. Then delete the first backdrop and right-click to duplicate the backdrop you selected. Once you've duplicated it, rename it to Backdrop 2 and rename the first one to Backdrop 1. Then go to Backdrop 2 and select the text. Then type in the box, Game Over. Once you've done that, you can change the color. I'm going to make it red, and then you can also change the font, and I'll change that to pixel. Then make it a little bit bigger by hovering over and dragging, and put it in the middle. Once we've done that, we can go back to our code and select our paddles. First, we want to make the paddles turn 180 degrees, so do that for both paddles. And then drag the left paddle, paddle 1, to the left-hand side, and paddle 2. We want to make sure paddle 2 is the same position as paddle 1. So paddle 1 is at negative 209, so then we change paddle 2 to 209. The y-axis doesn't matter. Once we've done that, we'll go to our ball and begin coding the ball. First, go to Events and drag in When Flag Clicked. Then we'll go to Looks and select Switch to Backdrop, and we want Backdrop 1. Once we've done that, go to Motion and select Go to X and Y. If you'd like, you can move the ball to where you'd want it to start. So I'm actually going to move the ball to the top left, and then I'm going to change the x-axis to those coordinates. And I'm going to change the y to the y coordinates. Once you've done that, we go to Control and search for Forever. But actually, before we do that, go back to Motion and do Point in Direction and drag that under Go To. And then we need to do Operations and pick Random and put that where it says 90. Then change the first number to 0 and the second number to 180, which will change the way the ball moves when clicked. Now we can go back to the Forever function, and we want to go back to Motion and drag in Move 10 steps. This will keep the ball moving. Once we have done that, we go back to Control and find the if-then statement. Once you have done that, go to Operations and find the OR and put that in the middle. Once we do that, we need to make sure the ball can sense when it touches the paddle. So go back to Sensing and choose Touching and drag that into the left box and also the right box. Change the left one to Paddle and change the right one to Paddle 2. After we have done that, go to Motion and find the Turn. This way, when it touches one of the paddles, it'll turn. Now, go back to Operations and use Pick Random, because we don't want it to turn the same direction every time. So we change the first number to 150 and the second number to 210. After you've done that, go to Motion and choose Move 10 Steps. Now, at the bottom it should say, if on edge, bounce. This will keep the ball going if it touches one of the top or bottom edges. Then go back to Control and choose If Then. Then go to Operations and find the less than and put that in, as well as the OR, which we'll need. So actually drag the less than into the left of the OR, and then put greater than 50 on the right side. Once we've done that, go back to Motion and find the X position and put that in the left and put another one in the right. Now we type in the numbers that we had for our paddles. So this is negative 209, so I'll make this negative 209, and for the right one it was positive 209. Once we do that, go back to Looks and do Switch to Backdrop, and we want Backdrop 2. Then go to Control and choose the Stop All. Once we have done that, we can begin coding our paddles. Because now, if the ball touches one of the left or right sides, it'll stop, but if it touches the top or bottom or paddles, the ball will keep going to play the game. So, now we have to make sure we can move the paddles. For the left paddle, go to Control, go to Events, and do When space key pressed, and change this to W. And then go to Motion, and we want to do Change Y by, and change this to 30. So when we click the W key, it'll move up. Go back to Events and do When space is pressed, and do S, and go back to Motion, change Y by negative 30 so it moves down. Go to Paddle 2 and do the same thing, except we're going to make it the up arrow, and then change Y by 30. Then do the same thing and do down arrow and change Y by negative 30. Now we can test our game. And it seems to be working. So that's it. We've completed the design challenge.